Hey there. This is more like a little personal vlog, maybe a update, and I might talk about some spiritual stuff. We shall see. Probably you'll know by the title of the video if you've clicked on it. So basically, here I am. By the way, I'm Julie, if you've never met me before. And I have just moved. I am 2 weeks into my new place. 2 weeks today. I lived at my last place for 4 years, and I had started getting messages about like about my upcoming move a year before the move. When I first got this guidance about I needed to move, I was like rejecting it, being like, no, I don't want to move. Like, why would you make me move? And I would just they would let it go for a little while. And when I say they, I'm talking about whatever guidance team, was in charge of giving me this information, maybe my highest self. And but it would keep coming up, and I would keep getting reminded that I was going to move. And I can see now, looking back, how it was this process of first piercing the comfort zone, which I was in, which is why I didn't want to move. And because I felt safe, I felt secure, all my needs were met, I knew how to get my needs met, I was just like comfortable, and I didn't have to really deal with the outside world very much. I was on a lot that I had to myself in a little trailer, and I was happy there. And I was on the power lines. That was one thing that I didn't love about that location, but it was like a sacrifice I was willing to make. I had wondered if the power lines being like literally right over my house was eventually affecting me, because while I was there at that house, I did end up gaining a lot of weight. And for times, I went sedentary for periods of time, which, could make anyone gain weight and stuff. But like, I honestly and truly don't overeat, and I don't usually indulge in sweets very much, although I do. But I'm talking like, if there's cookies to be had, I'll have 2, maybe 3 if I was going to go hard. And that's not every night, that would be oh, I haven't had sweets in a few days. If I was on a kick where I had like some sugar cravings, maybe I would have a few pieces of chocolate each night, something like that. And by that I mean maybe like 3 Hershey Kisses, or something homemade that I made. So, and I don't generally overeat, and I had been eating 1 meal a day for a long time now. So it was puzzling to me, though, how I gained so much weight when I wasn't overeating and I wasn't really indulging in a lot of sweets, and it had to be the fact that I was sedentary, mostly. And also I was under immense stress, and I know my hormones and my adrenal system got all messed up for a while there. So I have been working to fix those things, but I did wonder if there were environmental factors that were contributing to my body weight and my body gaining weight, because I know that one of the ways some bodies have adapted is to store toxins in the fat cells. If your body becomes overloaded with toxins and you cannot process them, your body, some bodies can make fat cells to store them in. And it's just a measure that the body can take to save the organs, from being overworked and stuff. And the reason I know this is because I had done a lot of research on weight loss in the past, but also I had done juice fasting, and I also had been diagnosed with autoimmune hepatitis, which meant that my liver wasn't working, And the liver is, the organ that will process our toxins. And what had happened was my liver was overrun with toxins. And the doctors didn't really, I don't know what they're telling people nowadays, because this was, I don't know, 10 years ago, something. It's 2024 now. But then, they didn't tell you that the autoimmune diseases were from toxins, that your system was overloaded with toxins. That was something I had to come upon by myself in my own research when I realized these doctors were saying I was going to lose my life, that I needed to be on the liver transplant list. And then the drugs they were putting me on, steroids and like chemo drugs to try to save me, were making me feel far worse. And then I started to get more health issues, and then they decided that those were unrelated health issues and said I should go to a different kind of doctor for those issues, which I think were like gastrointestinal and stuff like that at that time. And when I went to a different doctor, they prescribed for me like ibuprofen, and the first doctors had told me never ever take that because it would threaten my life. And so I had these doctors telling me conflicting information, and it caused me to take it all into my own hands. And I ended up doing juice fasting. And one of the things that I didn't know about juice fasting, well, I found out, but as my body shed weight, that released the toxins that were stored in my fat cells, and that put more taxation on my liver. So actually, when doing the juice fast, I went into another attack of the hepatitis, autoimmune hepatitis, because I was taxing my liver by shedding the fat so quickly through the juice fast. And so then I learned about colonics. I learned that I could shed the toxins quickly if I coupled colonics with the juice fasting. And so I was able to proceed that way. But just through my need to do so, I understood that fat cells can actually be storing toxins, and that it's actually a function of the body's immune system to create fat cells to store toxins. And so I did wonder if that was something that was also contributing, because at my trailer, there was a lot of water damage at some point, and the landlords were great, and they did repair the leaks in the roof and things like that, but the moisture had already gotten into the roof and the walls, and anything I had in the closets got moldy. I remember finding a mushroom growing on the edge of the rug one day in my spare room, because just like everything was moist on the bottom level, like from, like it's a 3-season trailer. So normally people don't live in them in the winter and they don't heat them, but because it was just constantly condensation, and just like mold happened. Like I lost a lot of shoes that first year that I lived in that place. But eventually, I wondered, is this mold situation in my place also contributing to my, weight gain? Because it definitely wasn't an overeating thing. And it was like, even if I was sedentary, like I really wasn't eating enough to pack on as much weight that I did, if you were even just looking at calories to activity levels. So I was thinking that moving was going to maybe be a really good thing for me, but I didn't really want to do it at first. And I see how this evolution happened over the year, where I was digesting it and just like letting myself accept it. And even trying to prepare for it, even though, but when the time came, I really wished I had prepared better for it, meaning I wished I had packed sooner. I wish I had sorted my stuff better, and I wish I had donated more sooner. you know, it was my intention, and a few times throughout that year I did give things away and donate, but I feel like I could have done a better job. But what it came down to is I had to do the move myself in 4 days. And I didn't rent a truck or anything. I just did trips with my own vehicle. And it was okay. I'm one person, but I didn't have any very huge furniture and stuff like that. Bed, some shelves, some chairs, just a lot of boxes and, a lot of boxes and some heavy things. Like, whenever I was moving this, like, under my bed, I had these things that I hadn't looked at in a while. And so whenever I found myself moving this box that was really heavy, I was like looking in it, and it was all these river rocks, these beautiful river rocks that I had collected over the years. And I had stopped collecting river rocks because, well, I mostly stopped going to the river in recent years because I had started going to the lake instead. And anyways, I was like, oh darn. And then I end up moving things like that, like really just heavy. And then in my books, this is the first place I've been able to display my books in a while. Like, I guess, let's see. I had them out. Last place was the place before I live now. Okay. So in the place that I was in, I think I lost some of my books because of the mold issues, but I was able to save some of them, and I do have some bookshelves here, so that's kind of cool. Anyway, books obviously are heavy. I'm just kind of saying, like, there was a lot of trips, a lot of heavy stuff, and I was completely exhausted by the end of it, but I thought, oh, it'll be all worth it. And when I got here, I was sort of numb, and I couldn't even feel anything. I remember just sitting after it was done, like the move's over, everything's in my new place. I've set up my bed, and I'm exhausted, and I'm ready to like crash. And I'm just sitting there, and I'm just like looking at my new place, and I'm just like thinking, why can't I feel anything? Like, I was just numb. And I think that's a coping mechanism. For my overwhelm, I think I go numb. It's a dissociation type thing, and I learned it in childhood. And it just happened. It happened to me during this move. And for the first week, I was having really, really bad, rough sleep, waking up 2 to 3 times in the night. And just spending all the waking hours just cleaning and unpacking and moving things around within here, figuring things out, trying things in different spots, looking for things, figuring out what else I should donate, if anything. And also what happened was then my car was in need of repairs. So I wondered then if I should get a new car. So I started car shopping, and it just so happened that I got approved for this vehicle. It was really, a big upgrade, but it would have had a payment. And so that was another stressful thing, like considering, oh, am I going to do this to myself? And really, it would, because my rent went up when I moved here, that would have kind of really put me in this position of really needing to adjust to a new budget. And I ended up not doing it. I ended up deciding to repair my car. Even if it is getting a bit older, it's a really reliable car, and I know what I've already done to it to fix it. So I think it's just the better option, which did actually make me feel really abundant because I had already sat with the new budget of having a car payment for a while, like a couple days while I was making the decision, because this was all during Mercury retrograde, and I didn't want to sign anything during Mercury retrograde. And all in all, he didn't get he assured me he could get my payment to where I wanted it, but he couldn't. So I sat with the budget for a couple days when I was making my decision, and then when I decided not to get the new car, I was feeling so abundant because all of a sudden I had that money back. And that was kind of nice. It was a nice feeling to kind of look at it that way. It's an interesting way to like twist my frame of reference to remind myself of my abundance and let me feel abundant again. So that's been interesting, and I think in the last 2 days I've just started to feel really much more settled in here at my new place, and I like it. I like it very much. I mean, it's probably going to be even way better in the summer because I've moved to the lake, and I have paddle boards, so that's going to be great. And I have access right out my back door, so I can't complain about that. And then another nice thing is there are these humongous pine trees out my back door before you get to the beach. And they're so big that even though it's snowed a few times and pretty much everywhere you look, there's snow on the ground and everything's iced over in the parking lot and everywhere. But in my backyard under these pine trees, there's bare ground. Something about that root system, it melts whatever snow does fall, and a lot of the branches just catch it. And then the sun beats down right there. Like I have this whole row of windows right here. I don't know if you can really see, but well, they're covered, right? But that's all windows. And the sun beats down like right there. Like this room gets really, really hot in the daytime because of the sun, and so it melts that snow off those branches though. And it somehow comes through even though there's those huge trees out there. It's kind of cool. And I was just thinking how beautiful it is that I have access to put my bare feet on the ground right now, in order to help me feel grounded in my new, place to live and all that. And, feeling things like that have just started to like let me relax into it and just feel like more settled and like, oh yeah, this is all working out for me. It's okay. Everything's all right, because with such a big, they say moving is one of the most major stresses you can have in your life. There's this like psychological stress test I remember taking years ago. And it asks you about like any major events happening in your life, like marriage, divorce, moving, childbirth, death in the family, things like that are considered major stressors, even though they're natural parts of life. And, it's like that. It's like being pushed out of your comfort zone, moving. If you had comfort zones around the environment you were in, which some of us do, and I definitely did. And maybe do again, I guess, like yeah, I'm much more comfortable here now. It was an adjustment period for sure because in the first week I was realizing, wow, I have neighbors now and I didn't have neighbors before, and like I could hear them through the walls. And since in some cases I could hear them very clearly through the walls. And of course, that made me conscious of the fact that they could probably hear me very clearly through the walls as well. And that was a little bit like stressful in a way, but also not, you know, stressful not because I was bothered by them, but because I didn't want to bother them. Um, and also, like, it just felt weird. It felt weird to be in other people's vicinity, you know? But I have found now that I've been here a couple weeks that most of the people here aren't even here most of the time. It's a condo. And so I didn't feel crowded or, like worried all the time that I was going to be bothering someone with my, noise moving things and cleaning and coughing, whatever it may be. So that helped as well, just realizing the schedules of other people, and everyone's been really nice, and I haven't had any issues. I've introduced myself to all my neighbors that I know live here full time, and they were all very, very nice and pleasant and welcoming. And my landlord here was very welcoming as well, which was nice because it was just nice to know that I was welcomed and that I was wanted here. So I do think it was a really good choice for me to do it. It was hard on me to do it. I probably wouldn't have done it if I hadn't gotten that warning ahead of time. Because even though, like, my landlords actually knew that the trailer I was living in was getting a little bit dilapidated, and they were planning to replace it, which they had planned one time before but ended up not doing it. Now they were really like realizing, okay, they really got to do it. And they were going to replace it with a bigger trailer that they like a actual mobile home instead of like a RV, like a 3-season RV, like a camp. What is it called? A park model. That's what I was in, a park model. Instead of a park model, they were going to put an actual mobile home, which would mean that it would be suitable for a whole family, not just a single person. So, and the rent would be accordingly. So the rent was going to go up with the replacements. They were, giving me plenty of time. They hadn't even given me they're definitely going to go forward and do it yet. But they were giving me 7 or 8 months notice on doing that. So that was when I realized, okay, I really, I guess it makes sense to get serious about moving. And because if you look at my energy type in human design, which is just a way to categorize the way energy is working in a human, with respect to the I Ching and the astrology. There are free human design calculators online if you get interested to look at your own, because it can be very, very enlightening and very helpful when it comes to knowing yourself, which is what this is all about for each of us. But anyway, there on human design, I'm categorized. My energy type is a projector, and it's one of the, I think, 5 energy types. And the thing, projectors make up about 20% of the population. And the thing about projectors is, for all major life events and even kind of interactions, it's nice if they have an invitation. But especially for major events like moving, like marriage, like a date with your soulmate, it's like you got to be invited in order for it to be a correct energy exchange. And say if you have one projector with another, you kind of have to invite each other back and forth. But it turned out that I actually was invited to move here, because I had looked at another apartment that this person had for rent, and I didn't get it. And then months later, he called and said, "Hey, I got another one. Do you want it?" I said, "I think I do." So it was an invitation. And that is the correct way for me to proceed in things, is with an invitation that recognizes my value. And it became apparent to me that he did recognize my value because, we had obviously met and had conversation and all this. And, I obviously made a good impression in order for him to remember me and specifically call me back to offer the apartment. So I was really glad for that. So everything, is kind of coming together for me. And I just feel like everything's like smooth and on track and in flow, and like, everything's happening as it should. And that felt so weird for me and for a minute, but also like only weird in the way of like, why am I still so tense? And I realized it was because of lingering stuff from the past and the relating dynamics that I was experiencing with others, right? And I had already been shifting some things that I had noticed in my relating dynamics, like with my mother and my sons. I had mentioned that in some recent videos. And I think it was just because I hadn't seen those people again much. And so, anyway, I had the opportunity to do so. And I just was amazed at how different the relating dynamic was between me and my mother and between me and my sons. And it was very obvious to me that I had, in fact, shifted things when I did the work on myself, the inner, the shadow work. And that was like the thing that finally brought my nervous system down into a relaxed state, because that's really one of the most important things to me, is my loved ones, is my relationship with my family and my children, and of course my mother. And I love that it doesn't require them to change. It doesn't require them to be different. I could change within myself, and then our dynamic changed, so they can be who they are, even if they have some wounds. And I don't take that personal, you know? And the only part of me that did take it personal was a hurt part of me. So when I was hurt, that was the thing that alerted me to, oh, there's something here for me to heal in myself. And I'm so glad I did, because, yeah, things just felt so much more relaxed and happy and just so different. Like my mom was thanking me for things and helping her, and I didn't feel worn out or drained by even helping her. And I also got a lot of thank yous from my son, and it's the son that I've mentioned before who never appreciates things because he has other things on his mind usually. And he was full of gratitude and thanks, and I was just like, wow. You know, I didn't need their appreciation. I didn't expect it. I just gave it. It was like different, It was different from the past, and I noticed that. And my nervous system just started to relax again, because and I realized, oh, I'm much closer to them too now. Where I've moved to is much closer to them now. And so I just got to relax a bit more and just realize, yeah, everything is on track as well. And even all as well, with the extended family and the parts of me that are outside of me that I love, which is, just a roundabout way of saying with my family. So I finally got to really, really relax in just the last day or two. And, I still have work to do with cleaning and unpacking. In fact, yeah, it just makes me think, okay, I want to donate some more stuff, because basically I set up my place like a studio apartment, even though it's a one bedroom. And then that's how I usually live. In the last few places I've lived, that's how I've lived. Even though there were bedrooms, I make it like a studio. Why? Because I like it. And when I looked at my human design, one of the things that the energy can show is where you really feel comfortable and thrive in what environment. And excuse me, and my environment for thriving and comfort is caves. So it makes sense to me that I would set up my place like a studio, right? Because I like to kind of be contained. And So I have this separate room and I'm thinking, okay, so all that stuff, it's like, why do I even have all that stuff? Maybe I should start donating that stuff. You know, I probably will. And maybe I'll just have my clothes in that other room or something. Because I don't really, like, this room is really set up for aesthetics, for beauty. And yeah, I sleep in here and yeah, I cook in here, but it's all about being cute. Like, I'll show you that. I hate to swing over and show you right now because my popcorn maker's out and my coffee maker that I'm about to throw away is on the counter. But at some point I'll show you guys my cute kitchen. So since this room is really about like beauty and just like, you know, I like to be in a space that feels beautiful to me and that feels clean and crisp and not cluttered. And I have found that me and Hazel, which is my granddaughter, she's 4, unpacked a bunch of my crystals and she put them on this shelf and there is just too many. There's just too many. This is some stuff that on my desk. These are my divination shells. This is a sign that someone gave me from an event, but too much, you know? And so I'm about to actually go through that stuff tomorrow or whenever I get to it and declutter it and figure out what I want to keep out and what not. Because I really want it to be simple and beautiful, but you know, I have a lot of crystals. I have a lot of stuff. And like crystals isn't generally something that I want to get rid of, but also it's like, why should I hoard them? Why shouldn't I share them with people? So I don't know. I don't know how I'll handle the overload of crystals thing. Part of it is that I had a business and I bought bulk crystals to sell in my mobile store. In 2020, I created a mobile gift shop and crystals was part of it. And then I did I did like the Boogie and Blues Festival and like some other little events that were local, and set up a little booth or table at some. But I never really got going and flourished with that business or whatever. So I ended up with a bunch of the crystals to keep. And it's like, I love crystals, so I didn't mind. But also, like, it's a bit much, you know? So, anyways, the other room, if I just put my clothes in there, that would be good enough, you know. Oh, and craft items, because I can't keep that stuff in here because it's just not neat enough, you know. I've been living out of my suitcase actually for these 2 weeks. I've got my suitcase over there on the floor, and it was only because that other room isn't quite set up yet. It's it's getting there. I do a little bit every day, but it's a lot of moving stuff around and figuring out where things go. And this apartment that I'm in used to be an Airbnb, I guess, a while ago, before the last tenant. And so there's stuff in here that's like been stored and it's like taking up valuable storage space. But I still have to store it because it belongs to the landlord. And so that's one of the issues that I'm having is I can't store my stuff because the landlord's stuff is stored. And it's okay if it causes me to downsize because, you know, who knows what's going to happen in the future. Whatever happens, if I, when I end up moving again, I'd like to have a lot less stuff to move, ideally. I was just going through this room earlier in my mind and just like deciding what's actually really valuable and important to me. It's like 4 things. My laptop is one of them. That my cousin bought me when we were on a girls night, and then we went to like shopping the next day, and there was these like pottery, like handmade pottery mugs in a booth with a crystal on them, and she bought us each one just to like commemorate our trip. And I have it displayed on my it's my pan display. I got this new like pan pot and pan set that's like decorative. It's it's just like Pioneer Woman, and then these Pioneer Woman plates and like just color coordinated things over there. And that mug actually matched it. And then so I displayed that. That's one of the more important things to me because you know, I'm a little bit sentimental. I've got a Cancer moon, Cancer Mars. Another thing is like I have some art over there that my brother made me. It means a lot to me. I absolutely love knowing that my brother likes being creative, and it's cool to me that he shares that. And so I'll always keep that. And then there's a card that my sister gave me years ago. And, my sister picks out cards based on what they say and, gave it with credit. I was unpacking the other day because it was just like in a stuff that I've been like lugging around and storing. So I went through a lot of that stuff, paperwork, sorted, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I decided to put that card out, and then it's like my crystals, my laptop and my crystals. It's like, oh, and my oracle cards. So maybe like 5 things. Oh, 6 because my lamp, my elephant lamp. It's not sentimental, but I really like it. And I paid more than I would normally pay for something like that, $40. I just fell in love with it. I had to have it. I don't think I would have. I've never paid $40 for most of the things in my house. But I justified it easily for that because I loved it and I painted it and I don't know, it's nice. So anyway, handful of things in my house that are really, really, I wouldn't want to. Also, I like that I had all this stuff because I like that I can use these items to decorate and I don't have to go buy stuff. That pot and pan set, I got that on clearance before I knew I was moving. I didn't even know that I was going to have display shelves that would be color coordinated to them. I had no idea. Stuff like that, where everything like I didn't even know, but I had what I needed, and just falling together. It's like, oh, there's this because this is subdivided. There's a door, that's like locked shut from both sides, and this beautiful tapestry. Like, where was I gonna put a tapestry? Oh, well, I can put it on that door. Like things like that. I'm just like, oh, and I already had it, and it was really ugly without it because they had covered it with some, I don't know what, probably trying to dull out the sound and stuff. Like foam board, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, what I did have to buy a new bed. So that has been helpful. Well, last night was my first night on my new bed. And besides looking like a old school hospital bed, it's comfortable. uh, well, so, if you haven't checked it out, I have started a new series on my channel about feeling your feelings. And just one of the ideas that I had that I felt like some people are so scared to be with the feeling. That's why it's suppressed or denied, or, the other behavior is justified or it's projected. And it's like, well, what if I could just hold their hand and they could feel it, you know? Because sometimes I'll hear things like people saying healing is hard and all this stuff, and it's like, yeah, I do get that. I totally understand. I think one of the hardest things about healing is that if you don't know how to do it or you don't know you can do it. But But then the other obstacle that I think a lot of people would come to is the fact that like they're afraid to feel it, or maybe they don't even know what to feel. They don't even know what the root cause is. That's something I'm good at doing, is finding a root cause. So like that's something I can help people with. I'd love to offer that as help to people. And then another thing is just being present, being a presence through feeling that uncomfortable feeling. And these are just such key things that seem really hard and scary, because when you have the wound, you're seeing through the lens of having the wound. So you're like basically reverting back to the age you were when it first happened. And a lot of them are stemming from childhood. So you have the consciousness of that child version of you activated in the moment that you are coping. And so you forget that there's even a way to get out of it. You forget what you would do if you were to get out of it, and you just revert to that reactionary coping mechanism that takes you away from it, or redirects it, or suppresses it, denies it, or distracts you from it. But if people could understand, like, you just gotta be willing to, and then focus on, following through with that formula of accepting where you're at, that you got to process this, and then being present with the feeling that's anchoring it all in. Because if you acknowledge that you've got something going on, acknowledge the pattern, the unwanted behavior, the challenging thing, and then you just validate yourself, which is basically understanding yourself. And it's just saying, like, whatever your reason is, there is a reason. And it's right for you. This is your experience to have. And, like, no one can tell you that you are wrong for experiencing that way, or feeling that way, or thinking that way. Because that's what you had for an experience. It's yours. It's not wrong. And so you validate yourself on it. And then you take back your right to validate yourself. Because that is a fundamental right that we all have as sovereign beings. So becoming sovereign is really important through this process. And that's a part of the issue too, is that if we're not sovereign, then healing seems really hard, because we're dependent on other people to get our comfort. And that makes it difficult, because we don't realize we can take it into our own hands. So once we acknowledge that we got an issue, and then validate ourselves on whatever it is, whatever's happening around it, accept that that's where we're at. So we're not pushing it away. We're not trying to deny it anymore. We're not doing anything but like coming to terms with this is where we're at. And then being present with whatever emotion, whatever feeling is lodged in there with it. It just allows that energy to start moving again, and you become the version of yourself that can handle that energy. And now you're no longer going to be activated into that old way of coping, or avoiding, or distracting, or projecting, or denying. You're just going to, move on with your life, because you're a mature adult who can handle a feeling. And it doesn't mean it's bad to feel. It doesn't mean you're going to pretend you don't feel it. It's going to mean you feel it while knowing that it is a feeling that you're experiencing, and it's a piece of data that you can use to fill in your bigger picture of the experience you're having. As long as you're being present with it, it'll pass right through. It's when we're not present with it that it lodges in. And that can usually be because of whatever story we're telling about it. So if we're having a certain experience, and then someone says, oh, you can't feel like that, or you can't do that, or that's not cool, or how dare you? Ooh, I just cringed because I remember I said how dare you to somebody recently. Please forgive me, thank you, I love you. Sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. Sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. Okay. So if you're doing that, though, what you're doing is sort of like misunderstanding, because you're not supposed to take their word for the experience you're having. You're supposed to take your own. It's your own perspective that matters to you, not their perspective of what you're going through. So it's a misunderstanding to adopt theirs or to think that yours isn't valid. And then that's what lodges it all in. And like you might feel a way about that. So whatever story you're telling yourself could be the thing that makes the feeling lodge in. Because if you're telling yourself, oh, I'm wrong for doing it this way or for having this experience, then you might start to feel shame because you're doing something wrong that somebody else doesn't approve of. Maybe it's your mother. And that shame is what then lodges it in there with you. And that's what creates the pattern for you to keep living out until you become the version of yourself who is willing to process it through, and then become the version of yourself who can always process it through. It's like literally like that. And so this series is just about me deciding that one of the things I can do to be of service to humanity is to just be a person who can be with feelings. I can be with feelings. I've learned, as a sovereign being, that feelings are not a threat to me. Now, when I started this journey, they were. When I started this journey, I was drowning in feelings. I was overwhelmed. I was emotional. I was reactive. I was a mess. I was anxious. I was depressed, suicidal. And I didn't understand anything about what I'm talking about now. And what it was is like I had all this unprocessed stuff looping in my experience, and it was all me seeing life through the the version of myself that was wounded. And there was a lot of wounds, and they were all being activated all the time, and I was so overwhelmed. But I tackled each one at a time and like finally got this clearer view as I cleaned up the space. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, I can see a lot more clearly now. I can understand a lot more clearly what's going on here. And, in terms of human design, to go back to that, for me, this is easily explained when I look at my human design, because we all have these certain channels and gates where the energy is active and we get activated by coming into contact with other people that match our gates and complete the channel of energy. And also transits of the planets moving, can also activate our channels of energy moving. So we get chances to, be activated in some of these misunderstandings and move the energy and all that. But one of the channels that I have on my own fully, and we all have, some of us have more than others and some of us have none. But I have a complete channel called the channel of emoting. And I am also an emotional projector. So that means my authority is through the emotional body, meaning how I know what is the right thing for me is how I feel about it. But it's not how I feel about it in the moment. It's how I feel about it overall once I've experienced all the ways to feel about it. That's what my channel of emoting does for me. It causes me to feel all the ways there is to feel about a thing. Now, you can imagine that before I understood that this is what was happening, or that it had a purpose, or what was happening at all, this caused hell for me, because I could make a decision and then the next moment I'd feel a whole different way. And so I started to, feel like I couldn't trust myself. I would like impulsively decide to do this or that or make plans with somebody, and then just like I would feel a whole different way. Or I would trust somebody with some information and disclose something about myself, and then in a next moment feel this whole other way. And I didn't realize that my channel of emoting cycles through all the ways there is to feel. So especially on major things, I should wait 3 days so that I can cycle through all the emotions and know how I feel about a thing. And what this does when I connect with other people, so my channel of emoting makes me feel all the ways to feel about a thing. But when I come in contact with somebody else and activate that for them, however they feel about a thing, they will be pushed to feel another way about it. So that energy doesn't feel good to some people because it feels like a disruption. It pushes them out of their comfort zone. It triggers them in some cases. Because if they're pushed to feel another way about it, all of a sudden they're like very aware of how they feel. And that feeling could be something that's tied to a trigger. You know, I'm not saying that I'm the bad guy and I'm doing this on purpose. No. My energy body does this. I'm not planning this out. Emotions are not logical. It's something that interpret as the energy moves. And so and seem disruptive to some people, you know, because my energy does that. It's actually a favor to them, you know, on a soul level. They would understand that. On a human level, sometimes they don't like that. And some people would welcome that because, you know, it's not always that it's going to be pushed to a negative place. Sometimes people are not feeling good and they get pushed to a place where they can see a brighter side. So it's not all for the worst. But one of the things, you know, that I realized about this is that I have a lot of experience feeling a lot of different ways and that I know how to move energy. My central channel is open. So this means that energy moves really fast through me, meaning I don't always have to wait 3 days. You know, and all the major things I try to wait the 3 days. But things are kind of speeding up for me, especially now that I've cleared up a lot of my backlog. And I've had a lot of experiences already, so I kind of already know what the feelings that go with that are. But I don't want to say that I have it all figured out because I want to say, like, I remain open. I remain open to be shown, you know, to observe. But I thought that I could utilize this innate skill that I have. Oh, wow. I never even looked at it that way, but yeah, that's what it is. I guess it's a skill. And share that in the series that I'm doing, which is to just be there for people through their emotion and their feelings, because I'm not scared of them like they might be. I'm not scared of them because I've been forced to deal with this kind of thing my whole life. I didn't even know what it was at first, but now that I know what it is and now that I know what it's for, it's like, oh, okay. And I have enough experience to just not be scared of it anymore. It's not scary to feel a thing, and it's not scary to not know what to feel about a thing either. Getting comfortable with not knowing has been a thing, you know, in recent years for me. And I was so far away from that when I started this. I needed to know, you know, because knowing felt like the safe place to be. And it's a coping mechanism. If you need to know everything about everything, maybe it's for the reason of like you want to feel safe, or you don't want to be blindsided, or you don't want to be pushed out of your comfort zone, or you want to be prepared, or you don't want to look foolish, or, you know, it's like, but you're kind of pushing yourself further and further away from your authenticity if you have to operate like that. Instead, I've learned that if I just don't know, then I can just kind of be myself. And if myself doesn't know, that's okay. And if myself feels a way, that's okay. And if I feel a way and I know that I might not feel this way in a day, I can just say, you know, that's what I do. Like if someone asks me to make plans with them, I will often say, let me feel it out. I'll get back to you. And it has nothing to do with a fear of commitment or anything like that. And I believe that my family members and people who are close enough to me know that about me. That, and that's why I word it that way. Let me feel it out. Because there have been enough examples where I told them, like, I felt this way, or there's just something about it feels off. And then, like, later we maybe even find out why it was good for me to not do that, you know? And it's been comforting to know that they are okay with me being me. And that involves me doing it that way for me. I don't have to know even for them, and that they're not going to take it personal either. I think they all know how devoted I am to them and how much I love them and want them in my life. And it's interesting that I just had this thought to add that into my prayers, because I always pray for them to. I say thank you for letting them know their own love and all that, but I want to add in that thank you for letting them know my love. To just assure that they always know my love. And I think at times in the past I was a little hesitant to even let some people know my love for fear of them putting burden on me of what they might need from me. And that, of course, came from a version of me that wasn't prepared to take care of herself and have her own back and like tell people no if she needs to. And this version of me can do that, and not in a rude way, not in a mean way, because I would never disrespect anyone who came towards me with an invitation or wanted to spend time with me, or, might even need something from me. I would never. I would just have to discern, right? Like, is this something I can handle? Do I have enough energy for this? And if it's not detrimental to me, then of course I would want to assist or be present for, or, do what I can. For the loved ones or the people, that have a want to get to know me better or invite me. Because it's humanity. And that's another thing I noticed is just with this kind of whatever I've gone through and putting me in this space that I'm in now, being in public in the store the other day, I hadn't been in a while because I'd been busy doing this move. But I went to the store, and just everyone I encountered was just so much in their humanity, and I just loved it. Just like I walked by this woman, and I said, excuse me, because I was walking in front of her where she was looking at something, but she was stepped back, how you have to kind of step back when you're looking at something in the aisle of the store, because you can't really see very, very well when you're up close if you're comparing and, looking at a bunch of stuff. So I had to walk by between her and what she was looking at, and I said, excuse me, and then I stopped a little bit past her to look at something, and she said, being polite, she said, that was so nice. And I was like, oh yeah, of course. She said, yeah, a lot of people won't even say anything when they do that, when they walk by. And I was like, oh, I was like, yeah, well, I feel like it's like my humanity wouldn't let me not, because I recognize you as a fellow human, and I'm walking in front of you where you're looking. Of course I'm going to acknowledge you. And she said, yeah, I would too. And she's like, I just noticed because I would do that too. I said, oh, well, I'm glad to be one of you. And she said, me too, I'm glad to be one of you. And then she said, I'm one that, if I hold the door for somebody and they don't say thank you, I say, you're welcome. And I said, oh. And, basically she was saying that, she's a little bit passive aggressive with her urgence of their manners. And, that's okay for her and that's not wrong. But, in that moment, I just felt like, okay, I'm going to share. And I just decided, I was like, oh, I said, yeah, I said, actually, I've realized that I decided to allow people, to not say thank you, that, whatever I give, I'm just going to give because I want to. And she said, oh, and because the giving is enough, she said, for you. And I said, well, I said, yeah. And I said, also, it was my son who taught me that. I said, he's mentally different and he never says thank you. And I said, but he needs a lot of help. And then she was like, oh. And she just thought, like, just a couple seconds. She goes, I never would have thought of that. Thank you for saying that. Thank you. And I was just like, I thanked God in that moment because that's how I felt inspired to even share it. And I feel like that's like sharing love and humanity and peace, peace for her own heart. That if she's going to hold the door, she does it for her and not because she needs them to say thank you, because of course that's the real reason she's doing it. And maybe she was just repeating this, maybe when she was taught manners or something, maybe that's how she was treated or something, right? Anything's possible. And what I was going to say, darn. Oh, this is what I was going to say. And then that day was the day that I encountered my mentally different son, and he was calm. Something happened where I disarmed whatever was bothering him in the moment, and he thanked me like 4 or 5 times that day. And it wasn't that he had never thanked me, but I just think it's funny that the day that I claimed, that he taught me that by not being able to thank me was the day that he also thanked me 4 or 5 times. And I just think God is so cool, or the universe, or, whatever this divine orchestration is. It's like whatever you declare, if it's not truth, you'll be proven wrong pretty quick. It's funny, right? Not always fun. It's funny. All right. We gotta stop this. It's been going on for a while now. I'm going to say goodnight. I just thought of something. Maybe I'll sit in bed and create an outro for these videos, because I noticed that if a video ends too quick when I'm watching it, I don't have time to like the video and subscribe, and sometimes, then it like just flips me off to something else because I usually watch on TV, and then I can't get back to that video to like it or whatever unless I go into my history and whatever. But anyway, I like to have an outro on a video that I'm watching, so when it's over, I think, oh yeah, did I like this video? Because I will usually like any video that I watch. It's a way for me to keep track of what I've watched, if I come across it again, things like that. So yeah, I think I'm gonna create an outro. It probably won't be on this video, but maybe the next one. Do you like having an outro on the videos that you watch? Do you generally like videos that you watch? How apt are you to subscribe to a channel? So many of the videos so many of the people that I watch on the videos talk about how most of their views come from non-subscribers. Isn't that interesting? I think it's wise to be discerning on who you subscribe to, but I think it can be really important to keep something as an ally to yourself. Meaning, if you subscribe to the video, even if you don't watch the videos, you have access to it. So there's some version of you that has access to the information that's being shared on that channel. So just something to consider. I thought was pretty cool when I came across it. I think it was Jason Estes that shared that, and I was like, oh yeah, that's a really good point. And it's also the reason why you do want to clean out channels that you don't really resonate with anymore, and unsubscribe and unfollow things that you really don't want to be sort of like dragged down by or distracted by anymore. So that's that. See you next time. Thanks for listening. If you've been following along, that was my update.